Talking with the experts.
Welcome to episode 269 with Amanda Heal.
Another different type of example is I actually overcame. I hadn't caught a bus for 20 years. I used to catch buses to work and to university and to school. And then I was lucky enough to find someone who gave me a lift to work. And so for the next, 17 odd years, I didn't catch a bus. And then I worked from home, and so I didn't have to catch buses then. And then I applied for a job as a PR speaker for Guide Dogs New South Wales ACT. And one of the conditions of the role was that I get to as many speaking engagements as possible by bus. And the thought of catching a bus, oh my gosh, I was so terrified that if I did, I'd get lost. And that would be a disaster. I was just paralyzed, literally paralyzed with fear. But I really wanted the job. So I had to step up and say, yes, all right, and undertake 2 weeks of training.
Are you a non-techie, introverted author, speaker, coach, consultant, or entrepreneur wanting to make an impact through podcasting? In 30 days working one-on-one with you, I can show you how to build authority and credibility for your business. I'm inviting you to shift your thoughts about podcasting and allow yourself to expand into the next level of your life and business by joining the Podcast Wizard 30-day program as I help you take your podcast from idea to launch. Find it at rose-davidson.com under the Work With Me tab.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Amanda Heal. And Amanda is from Purpose Vision Future, and we're going to be discussing increasing resilience and overcoming uncertainty by building courage. And Amanda is a resilience expert with an extraordinary life story. In her keynote talk, she shares her 5 keys to increasing resilience by building courage. Amanda survived being born 14 weeks premature in the 70s when such tiny babies were not deemed viable. She was so small her father could hold her on his hand, and the oxygen which kept her alive at birth damaged her eyes, leaving her totally blind. So when not speaking, Amanda is a podcaster, an author of multiple books, and the latest being Seeing by Vision, Not by Sight. Welcome, Amanda, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a timely topic at the moment about building resilience and being courageous while doing so.
Oh, definitely. We live in such uncertain times. I mean, only just the other day, I had a friend was telling me that her husband got COVID and now she and her children can't go to a wedding that her children were meant to be flower girls at on the weekend. So you never really, it feels hard to plan anything, really.
It does, yes. Yeah. A friend of mine lives in the north of the state, and his family, and he had his brother and sister-in-law there, so they've all got COVID at the moment, so they're all in lockdown, and they're driving each other nuts.
Well, my mum and I have just had it, so just coming out the tail end of it, so if I'm a bit croaky, that's why.
Yeah, my brother just had it a couple of weeks ago, so it's you don't know who's going to get it and what's going to happen about it. Well, tell me how people can build up their resilience and be courageous in doing so.
Well, there's, as you said in my in the intro, there's 5 ways that you can build resilience, or by increase your resilience by building your courage, and they're all in chapter 7 of my book, which is now hiding under my laptop. Chapter 6 of my book, this book,
Yeah.
and which is the courage chapter. And I believe the first one is to feast your eyes on the prize, not the problem. So, you know, keep your eyes on what you're trying to achieve rather than thinking about all the what ifs and oh, what happens if this and what happens if that and what if it doesn't work and all that stuff. Just focus on what it is you want and keep your eyes fixed on that. The second is to optimize your goals to achieve outstanding outcomes. And research has shown that if you set meaningful goals, and they have to be meaningful goals, and break them down into bite-sized pieces, each time you achieve one of those steps, your courage grows, and that gives you courage to achieve the next one and the next one and the next one until you achieve that goal, and then gives you courage to achieve the next goal and the next goal until you've got where you want to be. The third one is to connect with your conviction for greater consistency. So if you have a passion, if you know what your life's purpose is, if you just know without a doubt that you have to do something, then if you connect with that conviction, that'll keep you going when times are tough. And the fourth one is to sorry, my brain just stopped as it has done. The fourth one is to upgrade your courage for unbelievable results. So courage is like a muscle. So if you have to, once you get it strong, that's great, but you have to keep it strong by using it on a daily basis. And you don't have to, you know, do great things, jump off cliffs or go skydiving or do great things, you know, just little things like driving to work every day or speaking up at a meeting when you wouldn't normally do so, or saying hello to a stranger, you know, little things will keep your courage upgraded, will keep it up to date, keep it strong. And finally, you can see your success by putting your courage into action, because many people think that courage is feeling brave. You'll never feel brave. You just have to do it anyway. As someone said, feel the fear and do it anyway. You'll never actually feel brave. And if you feel brave, you're not truly being courageous.
That's an interesting concept. I always thought that if I was brave enough to jump off the highest tower of the diving thing, that I was being brave. And I thought, well, I found the courage to do it.
Yeah. Were you a little bit scared when you did it?
I was terrified.
Yeah, of course you were. So you were being brave because you were. Mark Twain says courage is mastery of fear. It's not the absence of fear.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, all right. I should take more heed of what the philosophers and so forth have to say about it.
Yeah.
So I guess in today's climate, and when we touched on that earlier about what's going on in the world, how can people transform from being, I guess, not brave to being brave? I know there are steps to take, and the 5 steps that you explained, were very good, but the first one, I think, probably is reaching the goals and just do little bits at a time.
Absolutely. As the old saying says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You just take one little bite. I mean, I didn't go from being a redundant lawyer to a keynote speaker overnight. It took a lot of work, it took a lot of training, it took a lot of inner work, mastering your mindset, mastering my mindset, and, quietening those voices that said, who's going to listen to anything you've got to say? Why would you write a book? Who's going to read your book? Only special people write books. So I had to sort of shut that voice up and get an accountability buddy who used to message me at 4 o'clock every afternoon and say, how many words have you written? And sometimes it was 50, sometimes it was 500, sometimes it was 1,000. Just chipping away at it one little bit at a time. I think that's one of the major things, and keeping focused on what it is that you want.
Yeah.
You know, perhaps writing out your vision in front of your computer or something like that, just to keep you focused on what it is that you're passionate about and what you want to achieve.
Yeah, as a business leader or manager, how can you instill these qualities in your team?
Well, John Maxwell always says, who I had the privilege of training at his feet almost, lead by example. You know, do it yourself, and explain to them what you're doing, and you know, help them see your vision, and get them on board with that vision, and just lead by example. I think is really the best way to do that.
Okay, so I guess leading by example is all very good, and I agree with you totally on that. However, there some times when leading by example might not be, accepted by everybody. So, they might think you're a bit brash or, egotistical or whatever, because you've taken that, step to be courageous in making a decision about something. And so how do you overcome the naysayers?
I guess you have to build trust. Trust is kind of like change in your pocket. You know, when you build trust, you can do things like that and people will go with you. But if you don't have that trust, it's you can't do those things so easily. So I guess building trust, building camaraderie, building friendship, I guess building that team spirit, and then, people will be more likely to follow you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and courage can be shown in different ways, can't it? It's not like, like the brave, I don't know, soldier that, going to war and stuff like that. But courage can be shown in a number of ways. Would you like to, let us know what some of those might be?
Well, drawing from, some examples of my own life, I guess writing a book took courage to quieten the voices in my head. Becoming a speaker, pivoting from coaching into speaking just when COVID hit, that certainly was a step of courage and faith, because I didn't know what I was stepping into. The speaking world had shut down, and so I used that time to prepare. Another different type of example is I actually overcame. I hadn't caught a bus for 20 years. I used to catch buses to work and to university and to school. And then I was lucky enough to find someone who gave me a lift to work. And so for the next, 17 odd years, I didn't catch a bus. And then I worked from home, and so I didn't have to catch buses then. And then I applied for a job as a PR speaker for Guide Dogs New South Wales ACT, and one of the conditions of the role was that I get to as many speaking engagements as possible by bus. And the thought of catching a bus, oh my gosh, I was so terrified that if I did, I'd get lost, and that would be a disaster. I was just paralyzed, literally paralyzed with fear. But I really wanted the job, so I had to step up and say yes, all right, and undertake 2 weeks of training to learn how to catch a bus again. And
wow.
Started off just getting on and off a stationary bus, and that's how bad my phobia was. I got on and off a stationary bus and practiced finding a seat, and then the bus driver drove round and round the block, and I'd ring the bell and I'd get off and then get back on again, and off and on again, and find a seat. And by the end of that day, I had to lie down and have a rest. I was exhausted just after, after an hour and a half's training. And then I went on short journeys with an instructor sitting next to me, keeping me calm. And then I went on longer journeys with her up the back of the bus. I knew she was somewhere on the bus, but I didn't know where. And then finally I went on a journey, a bus journey, and I met her at the other end. And now I travel all over Canberra to speak. And I've also, now travel overseas, or used to before COVID, traveled overseas by plane and, you know, met people at the opposite end. And yeah, I know
Wow,
with
that is courageous.
preparation and training and stuff, I can go basically anywhere I want now.
Now, you've been to Nepal and you've been to did some climbing.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
That was in the days when I was young and fit and thin and all that. That was way back in 1992 when I was like 22. The Guide Dogs Association wanted to make a film to show the public that people with various levels of vision loss, they wanted to do the similar sorts of things to what the members of the public wanted to do. And they also wanted to help the few of us who were interested to improve our mobility skills and confidence. And so we were invited to go. And I initially didn't want to go because I thought, you know, the only thing I know about Nepal is Mount Everest is there. And I know I'm not fit enough to climb that. But then when I found out who else was going and that it was going to be a really good group and that we wouldn't have to climb Mount Everest and all that, I went, oh, yeah, okay. So we had to go on lots and lots of walks to get used to being guided over different types of terrain. We walked on up scree slopes in national parks. We walked over rocks. We walked on, you know, up, you know, steep hills, steep mountains. I'm kind of reluctant to call them mountains now in Australia because they're really not. And you know, all sorts of things being guided by different people. We experimented with different ways of being guided. And I eventually decided that the safest way, Mum and I had been walking over rocks and things at the beach ever since I was a child. And I'd used to put my hands on her hips. And so I could tell which foot she was putting forward. And I could then step forward basically in her footstep and, you know, be safe. But we decided it wouldn't be appropriate to do that with a Sherpa, a little Sherpa. So we practiced with my mum holding a backpack, carrying a backpack, and I'd hang on to that. And that worked really well. And all the other people went, oh, no, we've got enough vision. We can just hold on to a trekking pole. But when they started doing the more difficult walks, by the time we actually got to Nepal, they were all hanging onto their Sherpas' backpacks too. And each of us had a Sherpa guide who was a trekking leader in their own right. So they had enough English to sort of say, now step over this log and be careful of the slippery mud on the other side, kind of thing. Because the trails were really, in some places, very rough and very steep. If I may, let me tell a funny story about the trek. We decided, or somewhere along, as good as our Sherpas were, we still had little slips and trips along the way. And one of the trekkers decided that we would have a competition, and the most people who had the person who had the most technical falls, I would draw quote marks in the air, but I don't know how, technical falls would have to buy everyone a drink at the end. And it was decided that a technical fall was if you fell and you touched the ground with three parts of your body, like two hands and a knee, or two knees and a hand. And after much debate, it was eventually decided that two butt cheeks would count as two body parts. And the Sherpas really got into this, and you'd be walking up the trail and you'd hear this Sherpa voice call out, technical fall. And by the Sherpa, you knew who it was who'd fallen. And we go, oh, what happened? And, you know, they'd tell us. But the person who won the competition in the end was a sighted guy who slipped and rolled down a very small cliff, I suppose you could say, a small drop. And we decided that he touched the ground with his whole body. And so he won the competition.
Oh, wow.
So it was a way to bring some fun to, I guess, what could have been a slightly risky situation.
Now, I can't imagine being sight impaired. I think, you know, we take our sight so much for granted. I mean, I know you've been blind since birth or close to it. So it's sight is not something that you know anything about. Yeah. I'd like to perhaps ask you how you know about colours and, you know, how do people describe colours and things? I mean, textures are okay because you can feel those, but colours, and how do you describe those?
Colours are just names to me. I mean, I do have a sense of light and dark. So I know that some colors are bright and some colors are dark. I know black is as dark as it gets, and I guess white is bright. So I know that all the colors are in between. And I remember one day when I had nothing to do, I looked at the RGB readings for various colors, and I thought that was actually really interesting how you could mix the different colors together and get different ratings. So yeah, colors are just names to me. Some blind people do have some sort of understanding of color, but I think it's hard for totally blind people to, or most totally blind people to understand color. Some people can feel color, whereas I can't.
Yeah,
that's kind of a rare thing.
So it's a courageous thing that to be sight impaired, to venture out into the world, really, and I guess learn about stuff that sighted people take for granted.
I guess so. I always used to struggle with people saying, "Oh, you're so brave," and it's like, no, I'm not. I'm just leading my life. Until I got to see Nick Vujicic speak, and he is the most amazing guy. He's got no arms and no legs, and just to hear him speak was just amazing. And I was thinking about, oh gosh, I'd love to meet him. What would I say if I met him? And I'd say, "Oh, Nick, you're so brave." And then I chuckled to myself and thought, gosh, that's what people say to me. And then I thought, well, that's actually really what I think. So now I kind of understand that, people think I'm brave. That's great. That's really none of my business. If people feel I'm brave, then that's good and that's real for them. And why not use it to their advantage by using my stories to inspire and encourage them, which is what I believe my life's purpose is.
Yes, yeah, I think, and you do a very good job of it. I've been stalking you a little bit on Facebook, so.
Yes, I'm noticing that by your questions. I'm thinking, oh, have you read my book? But no, you've obviously been reading my posts, yeah.
Yes, yeah, I not often get to interview people from Australia, and because we belong to similar groups and pages, so I see your name pop up from time to time. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Anyway, tell me your book. Where can people buy your book, Amanda?
You can buy my book at purposevisionfuture.com.
Okay, is it available on Amazon or any of those others?
Yes, it is. It's also available as a Kindle book on Amazon. Purposevisionfuture.com is the print book. It's a 250-page hardcover, but it's very easy to read. It's got exercises all the way through. It's got that you can do. It's in the preface. I actually say, look, write in the book. It's meant to be written in. It's meant to be interacted with. But yes, you can get it on Amazon. And one day when I get my real voice back, get rid of my croaky voice, I will read it as an audiobook. I did start and then I panicked and thought, oh my gosh, what if it's not good enough? And then I didn't go any further. So
well, that would be good too. Audiobooks are very good. I don't mind. I'd prefer to listen to a book rather than to read one.
No,
it's
definitely.
a bit like a podcast. You can just listen and turn it off when you want to, and pick it up again. We're reading. You can't do anything else whilst you're reading. So
I had the great privilege of being on a live call with John Maxwell, and I was able to thank him personally for reading some of his books. And he then, said to me how hard it was for him and how he couldn't turn the pages quietly. And so he had to have a stack of loose pages on his lap and drop them as he read them. And I thought to myself, well, why don't you just read off an iPad or something? But anyway, he's in his 70s. He'd much rather read off paper. And he said at one stage they had to wait for 3 hours because his tummy kept rumbling. So I had the privilege to thank him for reading his books because it was such a blessing to hear his voice read his words, and it just brought them to life like no one else could.
Yeah, I had Jennifer Lieberman on a couple of weeks ago, and she is teaching people how to make audiobooks, She read one of her books and during COVID when she was in lockdown, and she made a studio, a sound booth in one of her closets.
That's what I do. Yes. Yep. Stand and talk into my jackets.
Yes. And she said it was quite challenging because when you put it on Amazon, it's got to be absolutely perfect. And she said it was a real challenge for her to do that, but she got through it, and now she's teaching others how to do it, encouraging people to actually put their books into audio for people with that don't have time to read, basically.
I'll have to go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah, no, she's absolutely wonderful. Amanda, have you got any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, at the end of all my talks and all my podcast interviews, I always say, if you're facing a challenge that seems a bit too overwhelming, a bit too big, just dig down deep and grab that courage, which I know is inside you. You've got this. Grab that courage, pull it out, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, everyone has courage. I think it's and you're right, sometimes you have to dig deep to find, but it's courageous just to live every day, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
You've got to, and just take those challenges in bite-sized pieces.
Definitely.
And just to get over those challenges, and something becomes overwhelming, and just, sit back and think about it and break it down into small chunks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when I've got a chronic pain condition, and part of the therapy is chunking. So chunking your activities and chunking your thinking, and something that I don't do. I just either do something holus bolus or I don't do it at all.
Gosh, well, it must take courage for you to get up every day. I've had a couple of serious injuries, and I'm really no good with pain at all, and it's the most draining thing. So gosh, all power to you for the courage that it takes for you to live your life.
It is absolutely draining us, and quite often have to have a nap during the day because I don't sleep well during the night. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Amanda, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and to discuss finding courage and building up the resilience through courage. I hope you'll come back again and chat with me about it again in the future.
Oh, thank you so much. And may I just say, if anyone listening would like a resilience speaker to speak to your, at a lunch and learn or at a conference, just reach out. My speaker website is amandaheal.com.au. That's HEAL, amandaheal.com.au.
Perfect. I look forward. I'll go and put that on the show notes so that people reach out to you for that.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, Amanda. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
I shall. You too.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.